You there? Okay. Hi. Hi, Kristi. Thank you for spending some time with me today. I consider it spending time because I'm new to interviewing and I'm much better have like a relationship with a person. I do know that you have been on Beachbody coaching for a long time, from 2011, and here I am trying to trail the path of those that have done it, and successfully. And I am trying to find pointers. I'm trying to find, what it took to get there and all that. And I look up to what you have done. I look up to, your energy. I rather you introduce your story, just a little snippet. That would be great. And then we can go from there.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you, Vanessa, for having me and asking me, to do this interview with you. I know you were so worried about taking my time, but honestly, I love being able to give back and empower other people to make these types of decisions because they're not easy and they're scary and they're so worth it. So thank you for having me and thank you for, reaching out to me. Wanting to learn more. So a little bit about my story. I became a coach 4.5 years ago in 2011, and I was working full-time in the financial industry, and I had been looking for additional opportunities to either leave what I was doing completely, find something else, or to earn some extra income. Basically, I got a degree in financial management, and I had my Series 7, Series 66, and my boss took me from an hourly and commission to a salary. So he basically capped me. He took away my commission, so I was put on a salary, and I had lost some benefits. I had really good benefits. When I first started, I didn't make any money. I was earning about $30,000 a year, but I had 32 days of vacation a year. So I was happy. I was like, okay, I might not be earning a ton of money, but I have some vacation time here. And then when we moved from company to company and we actually opened up our own independent financial office, he took that away. And I was down to 15 days of vacation, and I had been with him for almost 5 years. And my income had increased slowly over the years because I fought for those increases. I actually had to go into and sit down and threaten to leave to get a pay increase, which is not what you want to do. You don't want to have to threaten or be negative to actually increase your income. And so that just didn't make me feel good. And when I got that raise to what was about $45,000 a year, over time, each year fighting for that raise, he actually took income from one of my coworkers. So he reduced her income to increase mine. And what did that teach me to do? I was never going to ask for a raise again because she's my friend. She has kids and a family, and here I am, a single person. Like, yes, it was really expensive where I live. I live in California, and just to give you an idea, a one-bedroom apartment was $1,300, which for some places in California is pretty cheap. So we actually had it pretty good at our $1,300. But I wanted to buy a home. I wanted to advance my career. I wanted a challenge. I wanted to love what I did every day. I wanted to not have to fight for a raise. So I started looking for jobs, and every job interview that I went to, I left not even wanting them to hire me because I left feeling stuck in the exact same thing. Maybe it increased my income to 50 or 55, but there was no track that said, if you do this, this, and this, if you show us that you're performing and you're taking your job seriously, that you're going to have an increase in income. So I'm like, in another 5 years, I'm going to be stuck in the exact same situation, not able to afford a $3,000 mortgage, to buy a home in California. And then I took a step further and decided I was going to go back to school. And I started taking all these exams, putting in tons of time to go back and get my master's. I had no idea what I was going to do with a master's, but I thought if I had a master's, maybe people would pay me more. And I know I keep talking about income, but living in California, income is really important. You don't get very far in California when you're earning $30,000 a year. But I also realized in the job that I was working, I had a district manager who offered me to move to LA and earn 6 figures, and I turned it down. And when he first said, yeah, you can move to LA, we'll give you the 6 figures, it was really enticing because I thought, oh my gosh, I need that increase in income. However, because I didn't want to live paycheck to paycheck anymore, I wanted to buy a home, but I knew that my life would be revolved around work. I would be commuting most likely in LA an hour each way, or at least half an hour each way. So that was going to add to my time. So that wasn't time freedom to me. That was not living a life when I'm working for somebody else. No matter how much somebody paid me, I would be miserable, and life is too short to be miserable. So I thought, I need to figure out how I can take my passions, earn an income doing something I love, because I don't care how much money I make. If I'm not happy, it's not worth it. And I also want to have time freedom. So when I found the coach opportunity, I was so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, this is almost too good to be true. And at first I looked at it as just a way to earn some additional income so that I could buy my house. And then once I started listening to other coaches' stories, I'm like, this is actually what I've been searching for. This is going to get me out of my job. And even though I was accepted into the grad school program, I declined and decided to go full force, all in with Beachbody. It was the answer to everything that I had been searching for, and I was willing to work for it to make it happen. So, sorry, really quick.
That's awesome.
It took me about a year. It took me about a year for my part-time income with Beachbody to surpass my full-time income in the financial industry, and then about a year and a half for me to make that leap and leave my full-time job and make coaching my primary income, or my only income.
Okay. Well, thank you for that answer, and please don't be sorry about it. I mean, there's so many details that we skip, and we when we start this, we only hear the end of it, or we kind of hear the beginning and the end. We don't know the middle. We don't know that the coach has been through this, and that, and they had to make decisions as well and all that. And that's what drove me into actually doing this. I wanted to touch base with you and actually get those nuggets and get, what you had to go through. So how did you overcome that fear? Because we're all human beings, right? That's the first thing that hits us, like that fear. We have something stable, especially in your case, you have a financial, stable job kind of thing. And I'm kind of like sort of in the same way. I'm programmer, which is even like, a big, oh my gosh, you're going from something that it's known to have a diploma, and you went to school for it, and then you're like, I want to follow my passion. So how did you let go of that fear?
Yeah, I was still scared. I mean, when I remember diving into the business, and that same weekend that I started as a coach, I was studying for my GMAT so that I could take the test to get into the master's program. So I was still pursuing that. And then I was also trying to find everything I could on the coach opportunity so that I could have some knowledge about this business that I was building. And the more I read and the more I learned, the more excited I got. And of course, but then when it comes to taking action, you are paralyzed. You're paralyzed with fear. And I remember thinking, this is going to get me out of my job. And that the fear of staying where I was, like that fear was so much greater than the fear of actually doing scary things. So my fear became, does that make sense? My fear was more of being stagnant and stuck, and, living how people thought you should live, like how society and culture says we should go to work and work for somebody else, and rise up in the corporate world. And I just drowned out all those voices because those things didn't make me happy. And my happiness was more important than what society said I should do. Because I was watching, my boss, for example, I was watching him day in and day out. And yes, he earned, I now earn more than what he did, but he earned an incredible income. He's been in the industry for 30 plus years, but he was miserable. He was never spending time with his family. He was always stressed out. He didn't have any hobbies. There wasn't anything he did for fun. Like his work was his life, and there was no lifestyle there. And I didn't want to be that way. I'm like, I don't care how much money you make, you're not happy. And that scared the crap out of me. Like, I do not want to be 50 plus years old, unhappy, because of the choices I've made now at the time I was 25 with those choices. So I dove in. I was terrified. I remember the first time I invited somebody through Facebook and I was sweating. My armpits were all sweaty. I was shaking. My heart was racing, and I hit send. And, a lot of those people didn't respond back to me. But the scariest part was sending the message. It wasn't like, I was almost like glad they didn't respond back to me because I had no plan of what to say if they did. Back then we didn't have scripts. I didn't know about personal development. Even though I was doing it, I was trying to learn my business. I had no idea that there was something called personal development. I was just doing it. And I remember looking through our vital behaviors and thinking, I'm not sure what that is. So we'll just cross that off the list. Don't have to do it. Don't follow that. It's really important that you do it. But I just didn't know it. I mean, that's how naive I was. But I was terrified. And the being fearful of inviting was really where I was scared. And I was scared for probably the first year and a half. It wasn't until right before, sorry, my dog's in the background. It wasn't until right before I left my job that I had finally practiced inviting people enough to this opportunity that I was so enthusiastic about that the fear had gone away. I had outworked my fear of inviting people. And it's not to say that doesn't creep up. I still have insecurities. I still have fears. Something for me is like networking in person. I'm really good just going out and meeting people. We just got back from a team cruise, and during the muster station, the little security thing they did, I met some wonderful people and got their emails. They wanted more information so I could help them. And that's really exciting. But I wasn't trying to recruit anyone. I was just trying to talk with someone and learn more about them, because there's so much that you can learn from everyone in this world if you take the time to listen. And so one of my fears, though, is going to like networking events. And so my husband and I next week are actually going to a local networking event. And there's 2 events next week. So that's going to be pushing us out of our comfort zone. And like I said, my fear was greater of being stagnant and living the same life. In a year, being in the exact same situation. In 5 years, being in the exact same situation. And I see it happen all too often that people are in the exact same situation 5 years, 10 years from now, still living paycheck to paycheck, still struggling with the same stresses they were 5 years, 10 years earlier, because they're too afraid to take these actions. And that is what scared me. I didn't want to end up, I love my parents, but I didn't want to end up where they are without any retirement at almost 60 years old.
Gotcha. Well, you're a good example. You definitely set the bar up there now. So whoever's coming after you is definitely going to have to push the bar, even more. When do you find that it was the exact moment that you decided to unlink from your work? Because I mean, it's a process, right? It's over a year kind of thing. But when was that moment where it was like, I had it, this is what I'm going to go through, this is the day I'm going to start, and this is it?
Yeah, no, great question. So when I started, like I said, the first month, it was so much of educating myself and learning what the possibilities were. And when I saw that they really were limitless and it was up to me, that excited me. And I just wanted to share that enthusiasm with others. Now, in probably my second month, I sat down or I was driving actually with Paul, my husband now, and I said, no, really, if I do this, if I hit these minimum goals, if I help 5 people a month, every month, if I find 5 people who need my help, not 5 people I'm trying to convince, but 5 people who are like, yes, can you help me change my life, whether through fitness or the business? And I find those 5 people for 2 years, babe, I'll be able to leave my job. And he's like thinking, this girl is crazy. I have no idea what she's on or what she's been watching, but okay, that's pretty cool. And I don't think that he fully, he didn't understand the math behind it, because having the financial background, something that we're always doing is projecting future value, for a client's portfolio. So I did that same thing with my business. I took what I knew, and you don't have to know this. You can just learn this from something right here. But I knew if I was helping 5 people a month, every month, and giving it my all, non-negotiable, finding 5 people, that in 2 years, I'd be able to leave my job. So at about a year, when my part-time income with Beachbody surpassed my full-time income, and I had to put the disclaimer, Beachbody does not guarantee any level of success or income. But when that happened, I was like, okay, I'm at a good spot now, but I would never recommend leaving when it replaces your income. You want it to be like, if you're earning 50 grand, you want it to be more like you have 75 grand coming in. If you're, that's what I would recommend, because I've seen people leave their jobs too soon, and then it stresses them out. And all of a sudden they don't know what to do with all this time they have. They had part-time hours before, now they have full-time hours. However, I didn't take that advice. So what happened was my boss went through and blocked everything on our computers. And I didn't actually have enough work to keep me busy for 8 hours a day. But what he was very controlling. So, and that was another big fear of mine, is I never wanted another boss to be so controlling. And when I would try to come to him with ideas to give me work and to build our clientele, he would say, yeah, but what if that doesn't work? Or what if this, or there's all these, he always had this what if, this fear mentality. He was always living in fear. And I thought, that is how I do not want to live, because I'm just sitting here doing nothing. I'm sitting here being stagnant because he's too afraid to take some risk. And it wasn't even risk. Like, you're paying me anyway, so you're either going to pay me to sit here at my desk or pay me to go out and try to network and meet people so we can bring clients in. And he blocked everything on our computers. So I started work every morning at 6:30. By 8:30 in the morning, I had nothing left to do.
Oh.
So I literally had to sit there from 8:30 to 3 and twiddle my thumbs. And I mean, some people would love that. You're getting paid 45 grand a year. You don't have anything to do, but I don't. Like, I'm a mover. I want to be doing something. And so I would sit there and I would think, well, I could be working out. I could be training for Ironman right now. I could be out in the sun at the beach. I could be learning. I could be building my business. And I had to sit here in front of my computer doing nothing. And so that was a huge turning point for me. It pushed me to leave my job, and I left a little bit early. So, and the thing is I was making 50,000 with each. So when I left my job, I now cut my income in half. And sure, that's what I was making before, but I had earned that income so we could buy a home, and we had bought a home, and now we have a mortgage. So it was a big leap that I took when I left my full-time job. But what it did for me, and it won't always drive people like this, but I knew it would drive me. I actually worked harder. So I went from that 10 to 15 hours a week to devoting 40, 50, 60 hours a week. And in 3 months' time was able to double my income and replace that income I had lost. Now, the thing was, in that year and a half, I had worked really hard and had developed my skills in the business. I had developed, like I said, I wasn't scared of inviting people anymore. I knew what personal development was now. I wasn't just doing it. I actually knew what it was. So I had grown to the point where I knew what I needed to do to help more people get what they want, to get what I want. I knew how to do that. I knew what that looked like. And so I just got to work on duplicating and having it done faster. Instead of my 15 hours a week, I could now put in 60, and made that happen in 3 months. So I wouldn't recommend that to most people. I would say that you want to be earning over your full-time income before leaving, because a lot of people, it'll, they get a low paycheck one week, they start to freak out, and it creates all this negativity in their mind. And then our attitude really is what we're attracting to our business. So if we're in a negative mindset, we're going to attract a lot more no's and a lot more negativity. Where if we are positive and enthusiastic, we're going to attract more of that. People have enough negativity in their life. They don't need somebody else's negativity. They want somebody that's positive, enthusiastic. So they're like, you make me feel good. Right. So, that, typically with my team, I don't recommend leaving a job as early as I did, but I did. Yeah.
Well, congrats for actually, making it, being the one that, that stepped into like, this is what I'm gonna do, and you followed through it. What I find myself, my position is that I'm so excited about this and I can't wait. But it's very valid to have like, you need a foundation. You need to be knowing first that you're growing so that you can actually like take on. And of course, the guys are the ones that open up the eyes, right? They're like, oh my gosh, maybe not now, maybe a little later. So it's very, very, very valuable that, what you said. So we talk about sacrifices. What were the biggest sacrifices for you? I mean, there's in your situation, there was the fact that you had a mortgage going on and all that stuff, but there's the time, and then what else? What else did you have to sacrifice?
Yeah. So I'll just explain kind of what my schedule looked like when I did become a coach.
Okay.
So I would wake up every morning between 4 a.m. and 4:30. Usually it was 4 a.m. And I would work out before work. And when I would work out, sometimes I would do personal development, but sometimes I was 4 a.m. on my bike, riding a bike in the middle, it's pitch black out, during the winter even with one of my friends. So then I would come home. I would shower and it was a 30-minute drive to work. So by 6 a.m. I was in the car, and on my way to work, I would listen to past national wake-up calls. I've listened to every archived national wake-up call that exists. So during that time, 6 to 6:30, I would get in my personal development, and then I would work until 2:30, 3 o'clock. And then I would work out again because I was training for an Ironman. So by the time I was done with that workout, it was around 5 o'clock, 6, sometimes 7. It just depends. Every day was different. I typically had anywhere from 2 hours on a light day to 4 or 5 hours of workouts or more during the week. And then on Saturdays, I had anywhere from 4 to 9 or 10 hours of workouts on Saturday, and 1.5 to like 3 hours on Sunday. So when I got done with my workouts during the week, I would then go home and have focused time on my computer where I could send emails, answer Facebook messages. The best thing about that was I had a set schedule with it. I tell all my coaches, you show up every single day for a boss. You show up every single day for their dreams, because they say you need to be here from 8 to 5 or whatever your hours are in your job. So why wouldn't we set those same hours every week of when we're going to build our business for our own dreams?
Right.
And show up. Like if you didn't show up, you were going to get fired. But something that I did too is anytime I was driving, I was making appointments. So I'm really big on appointments. I actually get on the phone with people. I might talk with them through Facebook or Instagram or email. But then I bring it to the phone. So once they've reviewed information, I get on the phone with people. I can hear people's hesitations through their voice. I can answer hesitations much better and give them my story through the phone, where when it's written down, sometimes they can't hear they can't hear my enthusiasm through writing, and it could come off pushy. It could come off salesy. It could, they're not going to see my true intention when they can't hear my voice. So something else I would do is when I'd get off work and say I was driving to the pool, because I would drive to the gym to go swim in the pool. I was training for an Ironman. And while I was driving to the pool, I would schedule appointments. So I would have 1 or 2 phone calls of people that I had spoken with on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube or whatever it was. And I would get on the phone and I would talk with them. And sometimes that meant me sitting in the pool parking lot for 30 or 45 minutes until I got in to get my workout done. And then I would get off and I would go in and I would do my workout. And then I would come out, and then while I was driving home, again, I would do the same thing. I would have other appointments scheduled. And then when I got home, like I said, I would do focus time on the computer where I could do all my vital behaviors. And throughout the day, on my lunch break at work, I would have a 30-minute lunch break, and I would take that and I would call people, or I would answer Facebook messages. Every day I had 2 15-minute breaks. So the industry actually made a rule where you had to give your employees these 2 15-minute breaks. And you better believe that I took those 15-minute breaks and I answered messages or I made phone calls. So I fit it in. Typically when somebody has 10 or 15 minutes, they'll just waste that 10 or 15 minutes scrolling through Facebook or scrolling through Instagram. And I use that focused time to make that one more contact, to get that one more person who wanted to hear my story, to connect with one more person, to build a relationship with one more person. So I used all those nooks and crannies. And so I guess in a sense, I kind of sacrificed my free time, all those down moments that you don't realize you have throughout the day. I use those, I use those because it was getting me closer to where I wanted to go. I also, something you had said earlier was, deciding when I wanted to leave my job. I wanted to leave my job every day, the day before. Like I wanted to be gone already. And so I knew the only way I was going to get closer was to use every moment I could to build it.
Okay. Do you still have that crunch time? Do you still push yourself every single day, kind of like, this is it in the morning, and then, I go out and do whatever I want?
Yeah, I do. So I honestly show up to my business even more so now because I do have additional time. But I'm really set with my schedule because when I left my job, I'll tell you what I did. And this is one of the mistakes I made. I started sleeping in every day. I was like, I'm going to sleep in until 8 or 9 o'clock and then I'll go get my workout in. And by the time I was getting started on my business, it was 11 a.m. Wow. And some people are like, oh, cool, that's awesome. You can still work till 5. But I wasn't as focused because I was just kind of, and some people can do that. And that's the freedom of this business is you can, but I know me and I'm more motivated when I get up and take care of me first. So I get up every day at 4:30. I'm not a morning person. Everybody says, oh, I'm not a morning person. On the weekends, I sleep until 8 or 9. So I get up at 4:30. And I get my workout in first and my personal development, and I write a gratitude list. So this is something I learned from another network marketer, a 7-figure earner. And, that's one of my next goals. And to get to that goal, I have to become a better leader for my team. I have to become better. And so I'm trying to learn from those who have already done it and what are habits that they have that I'm not implementing currently. And one of those was a gratitude list. So I start every morning, do my workout, do my personal development. I share every day when I do my personal development. I actually share it to my team and I share with them what my takeaways were, so that they're seeing that I'm doing it too. And then I have a gratitude list. So for 10 minutes, he did 20, but 20 seemed too long for me at this point. I'll get to it. So I started with 10 minutes of just writing down everything I'm grateful for. If you start this, and I really recommend that you start implementing it, but when you start doing it, your mind will start to wander. And the first few times my mind would start to wander to all these to-do things that I needed to do. And I'd be like, oh, I gotta do this. I'm like, no, stay focused on your list. One of my coaches just said she started implementing it. And she's like, my mind just started wandering to like all these negative what ifs. And I just had to keep bringing myself back to my gratitude list. And so it gets easier as you practice it.
That's awesome.
Something I heard from personal development this morning, actually, and I've heard it before, but our cells regenerate every 6 months. So we can be a completely different person mindset in 6 months' time. So can you imagine if every day you're focused for 10 minutes on everything you're grateful for and you're just writing a list of that, what that will do for you in 6 months' time? Right. So easy to do, so easy not to do. So that's my morning. And then I come home and I have my vital behaviors that get taken care of first. So my adding to my network, inviting, I've already done my personal development and my workouts, following up with people, answering my emails and my Facebook messages, and then creating, additional trainings for my team. What am I doing? What am I trying? How is it working? And letting them know. So that's kind of my day in a nutshell. The vital behaviors, the income producing activities are still what come first. And I see too many coaches getting sucked into all the extras. Mm-hmm. And they spend a lot of their time on these fluff activities that really aren't going to build results in their business. They're not going to be helping people get healthy and fit. They're not going to be helping their coaches build their business. it's just stuff that you put on a to-do list and you get to maybe check it off. And so it makes you feel good. So it builds your ego, but they put aside the income producing activities because they're scarier. There's more emotion behind those activities. And, you know, those, until somebody is focused on those things, all the other stuff isn't going to build your business. And I think for me, because I was so limited on time when I started, but was so focused and driven to my why, you know, I was so connected to my why that all I had time for was those income producing activities. And that was all I focused on. And so, you know, that's what got me here. So I continue to focus on that. And then the other part of my time does go to my team and, you know, mentoring them and coaching them, teaching them what I'm doing so that they can help more people.
That is fantastic. That is so awesome. I love all the input because it's exactly what I'm going through. And, you know, and you do realize that, you know, there's a priority of actions. You do have to take, you know, precedence with inviting and following up. And I only came to realize that recently when I wasn't producing anything. So, I mean, you know, the passion you can tell, people can tell, but it's the rest. It's the actual, like, talking to people and reaching out. And that makes a huge, huge difference. So thank you. Thank you for sharing all that.
Yeah.
I don't know how much more time you have. We have like 35 minutes. So do you have time for one more?
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a big one. I'm a spiritual person, and, you know, I believe that, you know, it's the foundation of life. So even when you're going forward with, you know, business, it's important for you to include it in your life as well. And you don't want it to interrupt it, you know, like, because you have financial versus, you know, spirituality. So how did you put that together in your life, if you are at all, you know, like, I suppose at some point you had to deal with that. And in addition to you overcoming, like, leaving a job, you know, that was stable, how did that play a role in your life?
Yeah. Well, that, you know, spirituality and your study and your practice of that is just like everything else in your business. It fits in so well because it is, you know, it's those habits that you're creating every day. Your personal development can be your Bible. I mean, that's an incredible personal development to be focused on. I know a lot of my coaches, that's their current personal development, you know, and so it really, it all aligns so well. And I think a lot of times people use this, like, think of the business as separate from their life, in the sense that, you know, okay, I'll just give you a few different examples. One is people say, oh, well, I'm a runner, so I'm not going to be able to do all these programs. I'm like, no, you're a runner. So something like PIO would give you great flexibility so you don't have to deal with injuries. Or I'm a bodybuilder, so I don't need Shakeology. I already have my own protein supplements. Well, actually, Shakeology is not a protein supplement. And we have Hydrate and pre-workout and post-workout, which all bodybuilders use.
Right.
So I think anything that makes you, your spirituality, hobbies that you have, your age, like all these things that so many people look at as a limiting factor are actually what makes them unique and what creates success in this business. You do not want to market to everyone. That is not what you want, because if you're just trying to market to everyone, you're not going to connect with anyone. Right. But if you connect with those people that have similar interests and have similar beliefs as you and want similar things in life that you do, you're going to connect with them and you're going to build better relationships and have a better business. So, you know, one of my coaches, her husband works in the church. That's his full-time job. And she's the top coach on my team. And it really is because she molds it all together. Like her spiritual beliefs and everything she believes is also part of her business, because she was also a personal trainer. So, you know, everything, body, mind, health, like all of that works together. And you can't just have one. You know, somebody
Right.
can't just work out and not be taking care of their mindset and their spiritual side. Like I mean, you can, but you're missing out and you're not going to see the full picture. There are plenty of people that work out every day that aren't happy because they don't have gratitude. They don't have a balanced mindset.
Right.
And there's plenty of people who work on their mindset and have an incredible mindset and are overweight, which is okay. If you're working towards it, great. But if you're overweight, that's a lot of pressure on your organs, and that creates a lot of health issues. And for me personally, everyone always says family is most important. And I agree in a sense, but to me, health and time are most important, because without those two things, I can't spend time with my family. I can't be there and be the best version of me for them. If I'm not healthy, I could be sick with disease in a hospital bed, and I'm not going to be spending time and present creating memories with my family. Sorry, I get really off track.
No, that's okay. I love it.
So I think it's a complete, it's all together. You can't just, with my team, I use the business activity tracker, and it covers all of it,
Right.
and if you're just doing pieces of it and saying, oh, well, it's not working. Well, it's the hard part with this business is when it's not working, and this is really hard for people because it hurts the ego. But when this business isn't working, it's us. Like we have to be the change. If we're talking with people and they're not wanting to make changes, we just have to focus on ourselves and what we can change, because that's where we're going to grow the most. And through our own growth, spiritual, our fitness growth, our personal growth, our business growth, that's going to inspire others. And that's the part that we can control.
Right. And I completely agree with you. I can see that. I can see a lot of people going like self in doubt, because that, when it comes to, for example, spirituality, it's such a huge thing. And it's easy for you to fall into like, oh, what if people are judging? And especially because there's a circle of people that might have a different mindset. If you are self-doubting yourself, that's not going to pay forward. That's not going to lead you to where you want. So here's a big question. And I think you're going to like this one. And by the way, we're going to touch back again on the suggestion that you have of like being grateful every morning, because I kind of I read it on the compound effect, and I started doing myself like the first thing, wake up and just be like, think about somebody, and just want to attract them through your mind and wish them well. So here's an awesome question, I think. You wake up tomorrow and everything you built is gone. Okay. And nobody knows who you are. You don't have anything. And we're going to take out hubby as well. And if I may, and you start from scratch. What is your first step?
Yeah, no, great question. I would build my network. That's something that I had to do from the beginning anyways, was I graduated college and I was living in a town where I hadn't built a network of friends. Like all my friends had moved away. And so I was really alone at that point, and I actually wasn't on social media regularly. I had created a Facebook account when I was in college, because my college campus was one of the first college campuses that Facebook came to. So it was a big deal because not everybody could be on it back then. And so I had it for the first couple of years, and then I hadn't logged in, for a few years. I hadn't used it at all. So that was exactly how I started my business. And a lot of the personal development I'm doing lately, this is a question they ask all of the 6 and 7 figure income earners. But I would go to growing my network and connecting with people, exactly what I teach my coaches from the very beginning. And so I would go to Instagram and Facebook mostly. And then something that I am starting to do is going to live networking events. So just searching Facebook for those networking events locally. I would go to Facebook and I would find Facebook groups of things that I'm interested in. My boxer puppy. You didn't say I didn't have her. So if I didn't, I would go get another one. If I didn't, I would go get another one. And, join things like that. Facebook groups, join triathlon groups, running groups. My running group and triathlon group, a lot of those people from where I lived before, because I moved, I did build a network in San Luis Obispo where I lived for 12 years. And so I would just do that again. I am doing that. I'm in a brand new area now. We live in Tahoe, and it's really hard to meet people here. But I love it. I love the challenge. I love connecting with people and hearing their different stories and successes and challenges. And, if I can hear a challenge that they have and be that solution for them, that's really exciting to me. So yeah, I would just start doing exactly what I do every day. I think that's the thing with the way I've built my business is I'm in the trenches doing those things every day, like I don't already have a network. So it's not anything different than I would be doing now, because if I'm going to teach my team and lead by example, and they're starting out with nothing, with no network, and having to build that network like I did, I would do that. And I've thought about that. I'm like, what if Facebook goes away? What if Instagram goes away? But I've learned the skills of what it takes to build a network. And that's something that I teach my team. How do you build a network on Instagram? How do you build a network on Facebook? How do you build a network on Meetup or getting out in your community? So I would just do that same thing that I teach every day and that I do every day now. I would just start from scratch with the vital behaviors.
That's awesome. Back in the days, would that be your answer, or did you have hesitations about all this? Did you ever go through the period of time also where you were like, this is my job, I don't want to talk about this, kind of, and you would kind of like, this was just hidden on the side until you actually got confidence on it and stuff like that?
It's something that I realized I was doing actually is people would ask what I did, and I would say, oh, I work in the financial industry and financial advisor. And I wouldn't talk. I'm like, why wouldn't I just start? Why wouldn't I lead with,
yeah,
I'm a fitness coach. I'm an online fitness coach, and I teach people how to either build an online fitness business or help them with their health and fitness goals. Why didn't I just start with that when people would ask me what I did? And so that was a huge, I don't know at what point in my business that was, if it was 9 months in or a year in, where I had to make that switch and realize, no, this is what you're doing. But I didn't know how to build a network. And my upline coach, I would schedule something with her and then she wouldn't show up. So I just dove in and tried to figure out, like, how was I going to build my network? I had to learn how. And I think it's kind of funny because I was always really good in school, but they always told you what to do, like what book to read, all that kind of stuff. And I just loved searching for information. I tried a lot of things. I'll share with you one thing I did. I was thinking about this morning, actually, while I was listening to some personal development, but I actually went on, you're going to laugh, I went on to different job websites and found people that had posted their resumes looking for jobs. And I got their email and emailed every single one of them. And I didn't know if it would work. Nobody said to do this. And I think I probably sent 250 emails and I didn't get one response back. So obviously that didn't work because you want at least a few responses back. So I was like, all right, that one didn't work. But I did stuff like that all the time, and I didn't look at it as a failure. I was just looking at it as, what is actually going to work here to build my network? How am I going to connect with like-minded people? And, and my idea was, if they were looking for a job like I was, maybe they were looking for more than just a job like I was. That wasn't the case. That didn't quite work. So yeah, I think the difference between back then is I wouldn't know how to build a network. I would start from having to learn how to do that. But I have that skill now. So that skill can't be taken away from me, which is the coolest thing. Like the things that I have learned and grown and achieved in the last 4.5 years, it is more than the first 25 years of my life, 25 and a half years of my life.
Wow.
It's more than my college degree taught me. It's more than the 4.5 years working for my boss. The 5 years that I worked for my boss, there wasn't much growth. There really wasn't. It's not like I learned a ton in the first 6 months because it was all new. And then from that point on, I wasn't learning anything. And I think that was hard for me. I like challenges. I like having to grow. It excites me doing scary things now really excites me. And I think that's because when I was training for Ironman, and I had completed my first Ironman about 6 months before I became a coach. When I did that Ironman, the day of, I had been training for 6 months for this one day, and I was terrified. I was on the sand getting ready to dive into the ocean with 2,500 people and having like almost, just anxiety attacks. And I'm not even kidding. Like, I was having anxiety attacks. There were jellyfish in that water, and I had seen one the day before and almost grabbed it. 2,500 people swimming over the top of me. I'm not a tall person, and lots of men. So they have like big old arms and, smacking me. And I knew I had done all of the training to conquer this race, to complete this race. But fear and doubt was strong. But I just said, you dive in the water, and one stroke in front of the other. And at one point, somebody did hit me, like punch me in the face. My goggles came off, and people are swimming over the top of me. And I just kept going. I pulled myself off to the side to get away from everybody, and I finished the swim. And I remember coming out of the swim, I'm like, okay, that's done. I survived that one. And now the bike. And the mental things that you go through, the emotional roller coasters that you go through during an Ironman are incredible. Your body and your mind will tell you to quit. Nope, you've gone far enough. And I'm getting pop-ups on my Facebook. And I didn't, I just kept going. And I think that has taught me that those things that are scary, that fear is in our heads, and it's not real. It's things that we create. And so I knew when I dove into the business, it was the same way. If I wanted to get to this goal of leaving my job, I had to do scary things. And I knew that I would grow as a person and see what I was capable of on the other side of that fear. Because I had already done that with an Ironman. I had already done that with a marathon. I wasn't an athletic person. When I started training for these things, it didn't start at those big events. Right. It started like, I'm gonna do a sprint triathlon. I couldn't even swim 2 laps in the pool without being winded. A mile was my entire run. And so people look now, they're like, oh, she's just always been athletic. And I wasn't. I was far from it. So I know what it's like. I've been competing as an athlete in different sports since 2004. That was my first sprint triathlon. And from that first sprint triathlon, it was 4 years before I did my first marathon. And 2 years after that, I did my first Ironman. So it was a 6-year journey to that Ironman. It didn't happen overnight. And yeah. And so I knew that if I just kept learning and growing, I would get over those fears and see little by little what I was capable of.
Right. And I commend you for that. You're a huge inspiration because you've been everywhere. You've been like, through sports, and then, and now you're doing like the physical thing, and then, and you have a strong business. So it's admirable. It's really, I commend you for that. And
well, I feel like the one thing I do as coaches is we're asking people who are wanting to get in shape or start their own business to do things that are scary, that are outside their comfort zone. So while those things that they're doing aren't outside my comfort zone anymore, I feel like I have to keep expanding that comfort zone and pushing my own comfort zone and fears to lead by example if I'm going to ask them to do the same.
That's fantastic. And I see that with Beachbody. That's the greatest thing that I got passionate about all this. It's not about the name itself. It's the fact that it fills in the gaps. Like, you're lacking a little bit of this or that, and it kind of like leads you to that path. And you kind of like, start filling yourself, with the things that you didn't target or didn't think about, or it's super, super amazing. So last but not least, so we're going back to dreams, right? Or wishes. Which one is your biggest one, like right now? I mean, you have a bajillion and I follow your posts, and that's the easiest. But what's the one thing that you're like, this is it? For now.
For now, one thing. I want my team to be here. I want my team to be where I'm at right now. And I know they will be. And, they're just a couple steps behind me. And it's it's amazing, you know, being able to create this freedom that Paul and I have created. But the best feeling, the feeling that actually makes me cry, you know, they always say that why that makes you cry, is actually seeing my coaches succeed in their business and watching them take the next steps, and seeing what they're capable of and overcoming their struggles, you know, where a year and 2 years from now, the struggles they have now will seem so minuscule to everything else. And watching them grow and develop as leaders. They are incredible leaders, doing far, you know, they're far better leaders than I was in the same time frame that they've been in the business. But watching them succeed, you know, when they send me highest paycheck, or my team has helped this many people this month, that is what really excites me and gets me enthusiastic and has me showing up every day. And it didn't occur to me until recently, actually. My husband and I were trail running, and a lot of times he's in front of me because he runs a little bit faster. So that pushes me because I'm trying to keep up. And I've always run with people or biked with people or gone with people that are better than me. And sometimes that can be defeating because you can never keep up, but it always pushed me. But this particular day I was in front, and when I was in front, it actually pushed me as well. He's like, why are you going so fast? And I'm like, because I don't want to go too slow and hold you back. And I think that's, you know, my team pushes me because I don't want to go too slow and hold them back.
That's awesome. That's amazing. So you're amazing. You're a great, great person. I love your dog. I love everything about you and what you taught, you know, what you're teaching to people, which is the most important. Your dog is so cute. He's adorable. I'd love to do this also with your husband. I'd love to, you know, connect with you again, of course, because I mean, it's not stopping here. It's, you know, it's progressing even more. I'm going to thank you over and over again for the time, because this is a huge value for me. This is the time that, you know, that I'm trying to figure things out. And of course, I'm trying to pull people, you know, that's the next step too, you know, to not pull, to actually, like, you know, lead, to actually, like, you know, be the person that is out there and like you said, the one that is cycling forward, and then, you know, everybody just follows through because, you know, they see like such an excitement. So thank you. Is there anything you want to add? Is there anything that, you know, I didn't cover and you wanted to just put in there?
No, I'd love to do another interview with my husband. We've that's one thing that I will add actually is just never give up and keep working on yourself, because as you develop yourself as a leader, as you go after your goals, even if other people don't get it and don't want to come along with you, just keep going. Over the years, you know, my husband wasn't on board, and then when he did kind of start to see the vision, he was excited about it, but he said, I'll never leave my job. I love what I do. I love my company. I love the people that I work with. I'll never leave. And I was like, that's fine. And I never pushed it. You know, deep down, I would love for him to leave his job because I wanted that freedom together. But then when we moved to Tahoe and we had family visit, his family was here for a week, and then my family was here for a week and a half, and back to back. And, you know, I would wake up, I would do my workouts, my personal development, I would work for 2 to 3 hours, and I'd spend the rest of the day with them. So I still get my stuff done, even when, you know, I have family in town. And he was actually stuck working. So we would go to the beach or go do things, and he would have to be working. My grandma said, well, I feel bad leaving him. And I'm like, I don't. He chooses to work. And he kept saying, he said, you know, I as much as I love my job and the people I work with, it's not giving me freedom. And that's when that is probably the biggest moment in my business for me, is when he was ready to leave his job, because I had gone after my goals without pushing anything on him and just sharing my vision. And he, you know, he was very supportive in my vision. It wasn't that he was ever not supportive. It wasn't his. And now it's become his, and we get to do this together. And this is our first week of building the business together. And it has been, I mean, we talked about it. We created plans, what he was going to do. He started working about an hour a week on the business, so we'd have some idea of how he was going to help add value to our team. And this first week has been more incredible than I could have imagined. I mean, it was a scary step for us too, to take this step, and I'm excited for the future.
I'm so excited for you. I saw the post. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's like ultimate when you get like, your partner, because we care for them so much. By the way, how tall are you?
5'2" or
You're
5'1.5". 5'1.5".
We have to stand together one of these days. Like next summit, I'll make it like a goal. I'm 6'2", so.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Oh, I'll be a foot shorter. I'll wear high heels.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll touch base with you whenever we can do this. This will be great. Like, to have him on board, and then we'll do this again. And sorry about like the audio. This is the place that I found for now. I still need to figure out like, the right position and all that stuff. I'm working that out. So thank you.
Thank you. It's been such a pleasure. I appreciate you asking me. It made my day. So
thank you. Thank you. Bye now.